Well, good morning. My name is Michael Salvatore. Many years ago, I had lost my way in life, and I prayed that God would help me find a way back. And He answered my prayers with a place and a person. The place God put me in used to be called the Wachovia Center in South Philadelphia. It was the venue for a Promise Keepers meeting with the motto, Men of Christian Integrity. And I was sitting there among 21,000 other men because I had been no such man. I was there because I had been rejecting God's gracious offers of a second chance. I was there because I thought getting away with a lie was the same as telling the truth. What I never thought would happen had happened. The real me was exposed and I couldn't cover it up with lies. God was forcing me to deal with the truth. I sat there wondering, how did my life come to this moment? The person God put me with had a big, booming voice, and it boomed from the podium. There are many lost men here today, he said. There are many of you who do not know what to do. The person's name was Bishop Wellington Boone, and he was talking to me, and judging by the many nodding heads around me, he was talking to many men in the audience. He paused for a moment, and then he said, "Men, Paul was lost too, so you're in good company." He smiled widely and said, "But that's all right. You're here now." He went on to explain that Paul was a broken man. And just like us, and just like Paul, we had broken ourselves. Now we were confused about how we got broken, how we could get unbroken. Another pause. Then he boomed again. "Satan, with your help, broke you. He made the man you were into a fool." And I began to wonder whether the bishop was reading my mind. "I see a stadium full of foolish faces," he said. The man next to me leaned over and said, "The bishop must have really good eyesight to see us sitting right back here in the rear." Men, you can't get unbroke because you keep breaking yourself over and over. More heads were nodding now. My head was nodding. The boom in his voice got louder. Paul could not stop breaking himself. Romans 7:15, men. Read it and remember it. "I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do." Then another pause, and total silence now. Not an empty pause, but one that filled the room with a power, and it was a building power. "I have a message for you. It is a message Christ gave to Paul to give to you and to me. It is Romans 6:21. Romans 6:21, he emphasized. "What benefit did you reap at the time from the things you are now ashamed of?" It fell like a hammer blow on the audience. It fell like a hammer blow on me. He told us he knew what we reaped. We had reaped regret and shame for ourselves. We had reaped pain for those who loved us and who we loved. Around the auditorium, heads were nodding and bowing, and the power in the arena kept building. Then another pause, a longer pause, more silence. The place was full of very still men. "But there's hope," he shouted. "Hope, men, hope and forgiveness. All in Jesus Christ. All in Jesus. All you have to do is ask." Then he stopped booming and spoke gently, softly. "If you want to be healed, if you want peace back in your life, if you want to escape the shame, if you want to stop being afraid, come down. Come down. Come down here to Jesus." It felt like a revival. It was a revival. He was trying to revive us. Rivers of men flowed down to the podium. Hands on backs, around shoulders. They swarmed the stage. The bishop kept murmuring, "Yes, men, come, come." He kept calling us men because I suspect many like me in the audience didn't feel like much of a man. Then another pause, a longer pause. Then he scanned the arena. "This is not all of you. Some of you are so broken you cannot walk down this aisle. You may have no home to go to. You may be going to jail. You may have lost your job. You may have lost your family. You may have lost everything. But Jesus can heal you. So if you can't make the journey down here, just stand up where you are. Just stand up. Please stand up. The place was absolutely quiet now, and no one stirred. The bishop just bowed his head, and he seemed to be praying. Long minutes passed, very long minutes. Every head was looking around, and then, very high up, a solitary man stood up, seemingly dangling like a puppet on a string. Every head in the arena turned to see him. Then another man stood up. Then another, and then men sprouted up all over the place. The Spirit is here, the bishop said. I know you feel it. Let it lead you. Then the man next to me, the one who wondered how the bishop had such good eyesight to see that we were fools, he stood up. He looked stooped and smaller, and just hung there like a puppet too. I was too ashamed to stand up, but I felt like I had to hold on to my seat to stop from being pulled out of it. Then the bishop rescued me. He cried out, "Stand up with these men. Touch these men." The crowd sprang up like a standing ovation. The audience became a living organism, one made of hands and shoulders. Men were crying. Men were hugging. I'm not a hugger, but I hugged a man next to me. I made a resolution to start standing up in my life, but I made stumbling starts. But I was helped up by a loving wife and a loving church family. Finally, with the help of Jesus Christ, I stayed up because, like those men who rose up from their seats in the Wachovia Center, I became a puppet on a string, on God's string. God's string is His Word, it is His love, it is His forgiveness. It is a string I cling to, it is a string that comforts me. It is a string that Jesus Christ offers to us all. And I can say with a truly grateful heart that I am thankful for the day that Jesus Christ strung me up. Thank you for listening.